Good morning, everyone. I call to order the Canaveral Port Authority Board of Commissioners, January 28, 2026. And at this time, I would ask everybody to stand, and I'm going to ask Commissioner Micah to lead us in a pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And I thank everyone for being here this morning. Wish we had more seats for everybody, but we'll try to move along as quickly as we can. First item on the agenda, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next item is a motion for approval of the minutes of our December 10th, 2025 meeting.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And at this time, I'd like to identify and have stand our ambassadors. So as I call your name, if you would stand so that we and everybody could see who our port ambassadors Mike Goteau. Is that Mike?
There he is.
Like there behind. Okay, there you go. You're still standing. You're standing anyway, so you don't have to stand anymore.
That's it.
Bob Sox.
He's here. Yeah.
And Ambassador Emeritus Mac McLeod. Good to see you. We appreciate our ambassadors and what they do for the port. Next item on the agenda is personal appearance and presentations. Amanda will give some employee service awards. Amanda, you have the floor.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I'm happy to do the service awards today. We have 2 employees with service awards, both of them long-term awards. The first one is a 15-year award, and it's Billy Dolson. Billy has had a very exciting career. He actually retired from the New York State Police as an investigator, and then he joined Canaveral Port Authority in 2010 as a public safety officer. He was later promoted to the Assistant Facility Security Officer, and his responsibilities are many. He works on managing access to all terminals and port buildings and monitoring security cameras for incidents such as security breaches or safety hazards. He also collaborates with the Brevard County Sheriff's Office and the U.S. Coast Guard during the day, and he serves as the after-hours point of contact for any incidents that arise. I know HR definitely appreciates his work as well. Outside of work, he enjoys playing golf and spending time with his grandson and granddaughter. And if you ever visit his office, you will quickly notice that he is an avid Kansas City Chiefs fan. Thank you, Billy.
Thank you, Billy, and congratulations.
The second employee that we would like to honor is with 30 years. Brian Carroll is a 30-year employee, and he joined Canaveral Port Authority in 1995, actually, as a general maintenance technician. And over the years, he has advanced through several roles, including automotive and heavy equipment technician, fleet coordinator, fleet manager, and currently he's the senior manager of fleet services. Under his leadership, the Canaveral Port Authority has earned the prestigious Best 100 Fleets in the Americas award for 6 consecutive years. It's quite an accomplishment. His daughter Kaylee is here, and she also works for the port. She's over in that back area. She's a great employee as well. Outside of work, Brian is the president of the Florida Association of Governmental Fleet Administrators. He enjoys riding his Harley Davidson and spending quality time with his family, his friends, and his 4 dogs. Thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate your service to the board. Oh. Thank you, Amanda, and thank you for the staff that's here. Next item on the agenda is an aquarium update. Keith is going to give us an update of the aquarium and the status. Thanks for being with us this morning, Keith.
Thank you, Commissioners, for having me. We actually have a special guest today. Milo Zonka is our 2026 board chair, and he's going to start our presentation today.
Good morning, everybody, and I'm really happy to see a full room. Everybody's excited to hear about the aquarium. That's heartening. So
That was what the show-up was. It.
really good stuff. But I do want to start out. I handed out, or I asked to have handed out a board roster and a little background on our senior staff, but just to give you an update. I do want to take a moment for the next slide, just to tell you a little bit about 2025 and how it's been a transformation for the zoo and for the aquarium. We have gone through a pretty wholesale change. As you know, with the development agreement that we have for the aquarium, it has been lingering for a period of time. And we have taken our lumps for that. You all have been amazing and wonderful partners. The staff have been terrific. The board is our single biggest champion for all of this. We're super excited for all of that, but we had to get our ducks in a row and get moving. And we've done that. And that's what I'm really here to report to you today. So just to look at some of the change that's happened in 2025 that we're now jumping forward into 26 with, we've added a significant amount of experience to our leadership team. We have a new Chief Operating Officer, Anthony Rivera, who's in the audience, who comes from the Clearwater Aquarium and the Georgia Aquarium. We have a new CFO, brings 25 years of experience in their field. We've done a tremendous amount of hiring. Keith has really got the team around him and with him that he needs to execute, and that was challenge number one. Challenge number two was to continue to grow and bring the board of the zoo and the East Coast Zoological Foundation, which I'll talk about in a second, and bring that board to a point where we have the structure and rigidity and strength to be able to grow this organization, as we're almost going to double in size with a second campus, which then has all sorts of exciting new complications of making sure that we can manage and we can effectively lead and do the things that we need to do for this, not only to get it built, but to operate and be a success and be safe and be something proud for the community. So as you look at the board roster, you'll see a lot of names that you know. These are folks who are leaders in construction, in finance, in corporate governance, in all sorts of different fields and strengths that we need, that we are bringing together. And I can tell you, we had our first board meeting of 2026. Everybody spoke. I think we almost had a couple people want to jump up on the table and get excited about topics, probably very much like meetings that happen here. But it is heartening to me to see the level of enthusiasm we have from the board and the staff. The other thing we're doing and you'll see the logo down there, the East Coast Zoological Foundation, is that we are expanding the branding of the organization to encompass both the zoo, the aquarium, the Bowen Aquarium, and the Restore Our Shores programs. I mean, it is a very complex organization that does a lot of great work, and that work is expanding, and we're trying to bring forward the ECZF as a more prevalent organization title, so that we can bring together the zoo, the aquarium, and Restore Our Shores all under that brand. So you'll see more of that coming soon. That's a new logo that we've recently announced. I know there's a lot represented in there, and I'm not the guy to tell it to you, but we will do that again one day and bring our marketing and our folks in to explain it, because it's pretty cool. And finally, I do want to talk about our philanthropy team. And frankly, some of you might be getting calls, and folks in the audience and folks who are watching this on TV. You know, we have to fundraise to make this happen. This is a community-funded, community-led organization. We don't have shareholders. We have a community that wants this to happen. And so this is a business, and Keith's going to talk in a minute about all the pieces we're pulling together to do the financing and do the nuts and bolts and get it built. But one of the major things we have done is we've rebuilt our philanthropy team, and we've grown it, almost doubled it. We have 17 people that are out there hustling right now to raise the money that we need to raise to do this. and we've got great progress with the campaign. We have an exciting, I will call it an exciting newer goal that we need to raise to make to be in the place where we want to be. But we have the team that's going to do it. So with that, I'll turn it over to Keith.
Thanks, Milo. And actually, the picture you're looking at here, that is now where our fundraising team lives. They have their own offices, which is really exciting for them. And they're beautifully branded now. This photo was taken before then. So I want to give you a little more detail on where we are in the process, right? We have 100% design, and that's really important. Now, everybody knows 100% design is never really 100% because things change as you price the project and go through the process. But we have enough design for the next critical steps I'm going to talk about in just a minute. And you're going to show a few images today, but I invite the commission. We would love to come and walk you through the detailed design of the campus. It is an extensive campus. There's 11 buildings on the campus. It is perfectly, it's built that way on purpose. It's got centralized heating and cooling and filtration systems. It allows for expansion into the future. We've already put those pieces aside to make sure our product will stay fresh. But I didn't want to take that time today, but the offer is there to staff and to commissioners to walk you through this design in detail because that's critical. One of the issues we work really hard is the industrial wastewater. And what is that? That is the wastewater when we basically clean the fish tanks. That's not the human waste, that's the fish waste. That's what's already out there in the lagoon. Most aquariums in the state of Florida actually pipe it directly into the human wastewater plants. Not really an option for us. It might be in the future. We might take advantage of it. But we also were really committed, as you know, Milo mentioned Restore Shores, which is our arm that helps restore the lagoons. So we've worked really hard. We've worked with your staff to come up with a solution we're really excited about, which essentially treats the water on staff. It's our own wastewater system. It's a system that disinfects the water, desalinates the water. So we're going to be able to use most of it to actually irrigate the plants on staff and use that and not put additional burdens out there. We have systems in place if there's that if it's heavy rainstorms, if we can't use irrigation, et cetera. But we're finally at that point that we know how we're going to treat the wastewater. We think we're doing the best possible solution that aligns with our brand and what we do for the lagoon. We've contracted with PCL, which is a construction firm I think you're quite familiar with here. They've made other aquariums. They have provided what's called pre-construction services. And as part of that, they've actually bid the project. And they come back to us with a guaranteed maximum price. So the 100% design allows us to get an accurate bid. I think you're all back here in 2021 when our first cost estimate was $85 million. How I wish that was the truth today. But anyone who's built a project does understand how the cost has risen over the years. We're actually sitting down with them on Friday for the first time to look at those numbers. And then it's a negotiation. So to be realistic, it could well be 60 days before we land on a final number that says, this is the guaranteed maximum price. And of course, we're going to have to talk about how you manage that, right? And so with any of these construction processes, and you guys are experts at that, you then have to manage to that guaranteed maximum price. So we're in position to do that, and to help us along that way, we are bringing an experienced project manager along who will simply be looking at and focusing on budget, schedule, and contract to make sure we get the best possible product at the best price and on schedule to get those extra resources in there. Just a few images. Again, I don't want to walk you through everything today, but this is the actual images coming off the architectural drawings of the entrance. This is really an open air aquarium, right? It's a campus. And this is what the entrance looks like. You go in and out of spaces, so you do get some protection from the heat and you can spend quality time there, but it's not a big indoor concrete box. If you're coming from Baltimore, you already have a big concrete box there called the National Aquarium. You don't need to see that here. You need to see what we have here in Florida that's so unique. Point out one feature here. That second floor is going to be a much needed function facility that can sit 425 people with the best possible views of rocket launches to the north and sunsets to the west. That little extra piece on top is like a VIP area. And why do we do that? Because the whole reason we did the aquarium was to connect people with the lagoon, engage them in restoration, and provide an economic engine for lagoon restoration. As you know, we've committed $1 of every paid admission to go into Indian River Lagoon restoration, which will make us one of the biggest funders of that. And we need to generate funds. And this is a new opportunity right outside your door that we'll be doing things, and hopefully you'll be holding some events there too. So where are we in the funding, right? Initially, our campaign goal for the whole thing in 2021 was $100 million. It was $15 million for the zoo and $85 million for the aquarium. We've smashed through that target for the zoo, and we simply stripped that out of the campaign and said, let's just focus on the aquarium piece. So the aquarium piece, we've raised that target to 140 million. You heard Milo speak earlier about we've built the team to do it. We have over 74 million committed, but by the end of the year, we'll be around 100 million in committed funds. And one of the important things we've all talked about is there are people naturally on the sidelines saying, hey, why should I invest in this? We know based on actually the aquarium that just built on the West Coast, they were actually at 50% committed funding when they ground broke. And that's a big moment. When you break ground for aquarium, people know it's happening, and you see the community come behind you. So we're feeling really good about our fundraising. We have a couple of big gifts we're waiting to hear about that'll pop this up hopefully in the next month or so. But we've also partnered with PFM, who I know the port has partnered with before, and Bank of America to provide the funding to get us there. When people make a gift to something like the aquarium, they do it over multiple years, and you have to finance that. And so we're looking at that to do it. Just yesterday, the county commission passed something that will allow us to get tax-free bonds. Not through the county, but they have to give permission for us to do that. The other thing that we've commissioned, and we're going to get you a copy when it's finalized is very soon, is a new feasibility study. Our whole economic model is based on attendance. How many people come to the zoo? Back in 2018, we did 7 models with 2 consultants. We picked the most conservative number. And of course, as we hope, this feasibility study has popped that number up. But it's still a very conservative feasibility study that looks at our operations, our construction costs. It's something the bonding agency needs to feel comfortable with what they do. They have poked and prodded and looked at every number available. So we'll get you a copy of that. It validated our numbers, which we felt very good about, and it was just being completed. Just to give you another thing, I will tell you probably the most popular part of this aquarium, based on some of the survey work that came out of the feasibility, is the Scaife Family Sea Turtle Care Center. So one of the first experiences that you have here, we are a leader in sea turtle rehab already. We have probably at this point some of the greatest capabilities in Florida because we have a surgical suite next door. We can do things other people can't do. But that's not visible to the public at the zoo. And Milo talked about the foundation and the rebranding. So when we're up and running, we will have 2 state-of-the-art sea turtle facilities, one at the zoo, one at the aquarium, supported by the foundation. But the one at the aquarium is fabulous because we've turned it inside out. So you can see the whole process. You can go inside and you can see procedures taking place. You can see the sea turtles in rehabs. You can see videos of when they go home and we release them. And you can see some turtles. At this point, after many years of doing sea turtle rehab, we only have 1 turtle that we were able to get healthy enough to live, but not healthy enough to be released to the wild. His name is McNubbins. You can imagine some of his issues. And we are waiting to build a home for McNubbin at the aquarium that everybody can see. So that gives you a little flavor of where we are on the design side, on the financing and fundraising side. I'm going to turn it back to Milo to sort of finish our presentation today.
So this really becomes in 2026 what's coming. We've had the transformative year. We've prepared all these things. And rather than just talk about trust and partnership, I think it's important to talk about, we talked about the who, and now we get into the how we're going to do it and why we're going to do it. On the how side, I think as you've heard and as you've been learning, we've built a great team. HHCP, the architect, they've worked with Disney, they've worked with SeaWorld. It is a beautiful campus that is ready to go, that is fully designed, and it reflects in the same way that the zoo reflects on the community, an outdoor experience, goosebumps, all that good stuff right now. PCL, they've built 40 zoos and aquariums, world-class team. It is fun to watch the engagement that we know that as they're coming back with this guaranteed maximum price, they know what they're talking about. They know who they're talking to. They know all the nuances that have to happen. Just the life support systems and the plexiglass are a project in their own right. I mean, it's not just a building. It's an aquarium and it's its own animal. Yeah, with PFM, a very established financial advisor, with Bank of America, working on our underwriting. Standard & Poor's is crunching the numbers for us right now. I mean, we are doing everything we can to build that trust and put a team forward that that you can trust what's coming from us, and we're going to build a product that the community deserves. Because again, you don't have shareholders. We don't have shareholders. Our owners are the community, and we want to serve them with a good product, which really gets into the why. why are we doing this? Now, first off, this project started because there was rumor and innuendo that a commercial aquarium chain was going to look to build something out here, because it's a good business. So first and foremost, it's a good business. It will stand on its own two legs. We just almost take that for granted. But then why are we doing it? Because why do we live here? We live here for a reason. We like the smell of the ocean. We like the sound. We like all the environment that's around us. Even just generically, I will just call them critters. So we can stay,
Not a technical term,
we can stay animal neutral and species neutral. I don't want to offend any species by saying one and not the other. So critters, we like our critters. And I think with this aquarium really is going to become really a love story from this community to the environment that we live in. It's going to be that opportunity to have hundreds of thousands of people. Have you ever stood somewhere and wondered, all the billions of people that have come and gone and how big this planet is? Have you ever stood somewhere so remote and you're like, I wonder if anybody's actually stood here before? I've done that. I mean, I'm not doing that right now since Keith just occupied this spot a minute ago. But I have been in those places and wondered, am I alone? Has this place always been alone waiting for me? The aquarium will not be that. Now we have the legacy of thinking that what we're going to build, millions of people, millions upon millions and tens of millions in some people's lives out here will come through these buildings and come through this experience. They will be educated. They will get engaged. They're gonna learn all the things that we know about how to protect the environment, pick it up, pack it out, protect those critters when you see something that's harmed. And yes, it will also be entertainment for the people that are coming through. It's going to be a good product. It's in a great place. It's being built by the right community with the right partners with Port Canaveral, and 2026 is going to be the year that all of those things kick off. So if you're not excited, get excited. I mean, again, this whole crowd's here to get excited about the aquarium. God love you. Thank you very much. And hey, there you go. Got some applause. But thank you very much for the opportunity to give you an update. We're happy to answer any questions. I know you got a full plate today, but anything we can tell you more factually. We've had a great working relationship with the staff. I just have to say that first and foremost. Captain Murray, all the team, they've been present. They've been engaged. They've been proactive with us, and we know that you all have been as well. And the greatest champions for this project are our two organizations, and we're just really grateful for all the support from the port. And just thank you very much.
Keith, thank you and Milo for being here and bringing us up to date on this. Since you're talking fundraising, keep in mind you got about 175 people here today that will be more than willing to join the foundation and help get the aquarium where it needs to be.
Thank you. I'll leave some cards on the desk over here.
I can accept credit cards on my cell phone. Thank you.
Any questions any of you have for Keith or
Just
Milo?
two questions. One's a little tough, one's easy. The waste management treatment, do you feel pretty confident that you're going to be able to get that through the state regulatory hurdles? Because, they can be pretty...
Yeah, we've actually been in great communication. So our wastewater engineer, we submitted the permit application for that at the end of the year. We received back what's called a request for additional information. Yesterday, our wastewater engineer answered all those questions sent back to them. Obviously, until we get a permit, we don't have a permit. But so far, the process seems to be moving well, and our engineer is confident.
And I do want to just follow up. This is one of those things of that team that we had to build. We've got the right person. I think everybody accepts the credibility and the competence of the engineer that we're using, and we're working that. We're very aggressively working that. Yes.
And Keith, in the summary terms, what is y'all's next step of what you're doing? Where you heading?
Yeah, so I mean, we're working on three fronts, of which we talked about, right? The design aspects are essentially done, but now we'll be working with PCL over the next 2 months to make sure we get the best possible price. Like everything else, if we have to, remove some scope from the first phase and move second phase, we've got to build a responsible product that we can afford. So a lot of our work is there. The other work is really with Bank in America and working to make sure we have the financing in place, answering those questions. And then there's the permit issue and working with you guys to make sure we're answering your questions. So those are the three primary fronts at this point that we're doing.
Great.
And then we have that team from that first slide. They're out fundraising every day. I mean, we're getting, 6-figure gifts every day. I wish I could tell you there were 7-figure gifts every day. But we do get 6-figure gifts almost every day in some form. Yeah.
And as you know, having a good team always makes things more successful. That's important.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is presentation regarding steps regarding the sale or lease to the barge canal. Just so everybody knows, we have changed the agenda format. Typically, we have public comments at the end of the meeting, but today we are going to have public comments after Mr. Dunbar's presentation regarding the barge canal. We have a substantial number of people that have signed up to speak. Just as a reminder, each speaker has 3 minutes, so you try to be concise in what you have to say. And I would ask that all of you be courteous so that in your support of the speakers, which I know you are, but give the speaker your attention, and so that the speaker gets through what they have to say, we can understand, and everybody here can understand. So we don't need, please refrain from yelling and clapping and hooting and hollering. I mean, I know we're all excited about this thing. I mean, as such, it's interesting. But I want to make sure that everybody is courteous to the speakers and what they have to say. Okay. Okay, Mark.
Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. Happy to be here on this thankfully rare chilly morning in Port Canaveral. In a minute, I'm going to ask Mr. Dunbar to come up and address the board, but I just wanted to do a brief introduction first. Mark Dunbar is a highly respected attorney with the firm Jones Walker, performs as outside counsel for the port on this matter and others. Mr. Dunbar leads the Tallahassee office of Jones Walker, and he's a partner in the Government Relations Practice Group. Mr. Dunbar is here this morning to lend his counsel on the approach for the consideration of this proposal. That proposal being to acquire port-owned land located on the south side of the Barge Canal, approximately 50 acres, part by lease, part by purchase, for the purpose of developing and operating an LNG liquefaction plant. At our December meeting, we heard the first presentation by the proposing group. That group consists of Chesapeake Utilities Corporation and a Berkshire Hathaway Energy Group, BHE, GT, and S. And at that meeting, they introduced this project initially. I'll point out that representatives from both companies are here today. Should you have any questions, they are present. Following the presentation in December, there were some public comments. We heard concerns from a few residents of the surrounding community. I expect we'll hear many more today. We also heard expressions of state-level support for this project from leadership at both FDOT and Space Florida. At that meeting, several of the commissioners expressed their desire for the proposing team to engage with the community to more clearly define the project and the impacts associated with it, with the focus being on safety and the trucks and traffic impacts to the community. And to hear comments from residents, businesses, and impacted groups, both positive and negative. Since the December meeting, the proposing team has been busy taking steps to address some of what the board raised at the last meeting. Troy, would you bring up that slide, please? In doing so, the group has established a website, www.canaverallng.com, where they've started to place information about themselves and this project. They have made arrangements for a community information meeting. The details of that meeting are in front of you, proposed for or confirmed for Wednesday, February 18th, 2026, in the evening, 5 to 7 p.m., right here at the Cape Canaveral Community Center. For folks that are here physically in the room, there are flyers and notices of that meeting should you care to attend. The team has also created some opportunities for public comment via their website, and the information is there, as well as a toll-free line. The port itself has actually received a number of comments directly from the concerned citizens. And to facilitate that a little bit more, to streamline that process, the port has created their own website, their own dedicated email address to receive those comments, and that's bargecanalproposal@portcanaveral.com. So I just wanted to share that information, quick update from what has transpired since the last meeting. And at this point, I'll ask Mr. Dunbar to come up and join us.
Thank you, Craig. Thank you, Mr. Dunbar, for being with us today and giving us some insight of what all needs to be done.
Good morning. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to address you on this topic. Just to give you a little bit of background on who I am, what I do, and how long I've been doing it, just kind of to help sort of set the framework from kind of the general guidance I'll be providing today. Over the last 30 plus years, I've been practicing law in Tallahassee alongside a very talented group of professionals, which also includes my father, who is a politician in the state and has been practicing in Tallahassee for about 58 years. He's a two-time chair of the Ethics Commission. And the reason why that's relevant for today is when I was growing up in my practice, before I sort of cut my own niche out from under his shadow, we have a very active ethics practice, and we have advised public individuals, public sector clients over my 30-year practice on a whole host of issues to guide them on the way they carry about their public duties, which is what you're doing here today. I also have served in similar capacities with you. I spent 8 years in appointed service under Governor Scott, 4 years on the Board of Citizens Property Insurance. Apologies to those who weren't happy with the rates during that period of time. And also 4 years on a water management district where we handled the public disposition of hundreds of thousands of acres of land. So I can empathize a little bit on what it means to serve in an appointed or elected capacity with proposals like this that come before you. As Craig mentioned, I am the lawyer for the authority, one of the lawyers for the authority, and I feel like both Harold and Craig have done a good job sort of setting the stage on where things are and what the laws are that sort of govern your activity. It's good news, bad news. You have an unsolicited proposal in front of you, and you have no clear statute to tell you exactly how to handle it. What you have is you have your charter, which is a special act that's passed by the legislature that provides your general authority over the assets in front of you. The Attorney General and courts have interpreted over the years that when you have a special district like this that has a special act that governs their authority, that isn't completely on point, you can supplement that by looking to state law, state opinions to help kind of guide you with how to proceed. So we looked at the charter, no clear guidance necessarily there. Look at state law, no clear guidance necessarily there. So what does that mean for you? You essentially are fiduciaries, as you're probably well aware, of the assets of the port. Your job is to look after those assets and provide what we would consider reasonably prudent decision-making over those assets. And that's sort of where you find yourself, which basically means you go to your own personal compass and you sort of look at what's in front of you and you say, what should I do to best serve the assets of this authority? Now, that's what you must do, and that's critical to understand that. That's what you must do. What you may do is also consider the views of everybody here. And the reason why I say the difference between must and may is you can be criminally sanctioned for breaching your fiduciary responsibility. You get unelected if you don't listen to the public, right? And so that, and having served in appointed capacity, one of the things, particularly on the water management district, is we would get impassioned pleas from the public about, well, we're concerned about these environmental aspects or whatever. And I would look and I would say, well, I understand, but the law says I have to go this direction despite the fact that the constituency of the district wants me to go in a different direction. I wasn't elected, I was appointed, but at the same time, that's where kind of the rubber meets the road on what the law tells you to do, what your compass tells you to do, and also what your constituents want you to do. And so it's fair to look at this in sort of two capacities, to say what is best for the asset, what is best for the port, what's best for the strategic vision, and then also say, what are my constituents saying? And you don't have to apologize for falling, on where you come down, because the law supports both positions. But wanted to make sure you understood what you must do and what you may do and what the difference is between the two. All right, so where are we? We've got an offer from an entity to buy a piece of land that you didn't put on the market for sale. And so I will tell you there are a series of questions that I think need to be answered, and they need to be answered in the sunshine. You five are the decision makers of this. You essentially will decide what to do with the asset, and the appropriate place to do it is here in the sunshine. You can talk amongst yourselves, you can reach some sort of consensus and make a decision. But what I put down, and I hope this will be a conversation, and feel free to interrupt me at any point, to kind of frame what I think are the big questions that you should be wrestling with in your mind, and that I think you guys should be discussing at the dais, either at this meeting or in future meetings. And the first one is, are these lands strategic to the future of the port? Are these lands needed for port expansion, for port opportunities in the future? It doesn't necessarily mean are they strategic for today or tomorrow, but they could be strategic 10 or 15 years down the road. I'd be willing to bet that there were assets held by the port 25 years ago that were thought to be surplus assets that are now very important to the success of this port. And so first and foremost, I think that's important for you guys to decide amongst yourself and with staff, are these lands strategic to the port's mission? Okay, that'd be the first question. The second question, if you choose to answer it as these are non-strategic assets, meaning we don't really care, we don't really see it in the port's future, we don't necessarily need it, therefore we're going to deem this as sort of somewhat surplus, is you have an offer for a specific use. It's not a generic offer on we'd like to buy the land and somebody may use it in the future for something. You have it for a specific use, and that is for the LNG liquefaction facility. And so the next question that I would say is logical and what you should consider is an LNG liquefaction facility important and strategic for the port or the port's customers? And I think that's important because the proposal in front of you is very specific on what would be done there. And if you have customers and port tenants that are saying, we desperately need additional LNG capacity, or we're going to move to another port someplace else that's meeting our needs, then I would say it's reasonable for you to say, well, we didn't view it strategic for our purposes, but we view it very strategic for us to be able to retain that which we have, that which is generating revenue for the success of the port. So that would be the second question: if the lands are not strategic, is the proposed use for this LNG liquefaction facility strategic to the customer, to the port, or to the community? As you deliberate, if you answer that it's not strategic, so the lands are surplus, the LNG use is not strategic, then the next question is, how best should the land be used? What do we want to do with it? Or if we don't want to do it, what are the other public options that are available? You have an offer in front of you with a number attached to it. Now, all things are negotiable. You'll have an appraisal. It's not necessarily complete. Craig and I have had discussions about how where the gaps are in the offer that would need to be filled in. But you have one number for one particular use. That doesn't mean that if it's a non-strategic asset that surplus lands and you don't care about whether there's an LNG facility there, well, maybe someone wants to come in with a marina, a condo, a whole bunch of other uses that might say, well, they're offering X, we're going to offer 2X, 3X, 5X. And at that point, you do have to weigh what is best for the port. If the land isn't best for the port, the use isn't best for the port, cash spends, right? And so you could spend, if they're going to give you X, somebody might give you 2X, you have twice the money that's available to you. Should you not then go out and make it open to the public to say, we view this as a non-strategic asset. We are inviting the public to come forward and to discuss with us what their vision is, other developers, other individuals. and you may find out that there is a more strategic partner out there for the port's uses. Again, these are 3 steps that you are not bound by, but as a reasonable fiduciary of an asset, you're trying to walk through, how can I maximize this asset for the port's benefit? And there are many things that can factor into it. Is the amount that's put forward right? Is it right for the community? Is the timing right? What are the synergies for our tenants? There are a whole bunch of things that you guys certainly consider amongst yourselves, but I'm sure that the public would like to hear the dialogue on that and have input on it. And so those are the critical questions that I would lay out there. And then as I wrap up, and again, we can have a dialogue, I would take them and say, what are the next steps on how we proceed with this dialogue? And decide amongst yourselves what the timing should be on how you answer these questions. But I think at the end of the day, these are the ones that you need to answer. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have now.
I definitely have some follow-up questions, but if you wouldn't mind, Mark, to share with the audience and clarify the difference between this piece of property, for example, and the rest of the original port property, which we cannot dispose of.
Well, I'll defer to Harold and Craig in terms of the encumbrances that are out there, but there is freedom associated with this land that you don't have in the others. There's no question about it. I mean, this is an asset that is available to you for disposition in ways that you might not be able to do with this particular location that we're standing on, or things like that. And that's important because part of the land can't be transferred in fee simple. And as Craig and I have discussed, there are leases that would need to be executed. But it is important to understand the difference between this and other, particularly when you're talking about what can we transfer away and sell and it's permanently gone, versus what is it that we can lease and sort of still have some control over what's going on there.
Thank you.
But even if we consider leasing or selling, I mean, what you're saying is that first there needs to be a determination as how strategically important for perhaps future port needs could that property be?
No question.
That's first, and then from that, if it's not strategic, then what is the highest and best use of that property? Open it up to the open market and see if there are other potential customers that would be interested in doing, as you say, other projects that may be condominiums, marinas, what have you. So it's really, you laid out for us very clearly, I think, and I think for the public, very, very strategic steps that we need to follow until we make a final decision.
Definitely. As we know, the good Lord doesn't make, waterfront property, right? Despite what's going on overseas and things like that with the island mining and stuff like that in the South China Sea and stuff, you got sort of one shot with this. And so if there is the potential down the road, you take space, for example. I mean, the way space is going, you don't know what the future technology is going to provide. And you may have new technologies that have smaller crafts that would say this is exactly what we need for ocean access. You don't know. But once it's gone, it's gone. And that's an issue that you do have to deal with. And again, that's what I was saying is it might not be strategic today. And I'm not trying to lobby you one way or the other. I'm just saying it's reasonable to say, 10 years from now, we may want to have that. And that's the reason why, respectfully, we're going to decline the offer. So.
And you're correct when you said we can't create more land. The dredge and fill days in Florida are long gone, where there was a lot of dredge and fill back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s.
No, I'd be willing to bet that property was one of the beneficiaries of it. Right?
I bet it was.
Yeah.
Any questions or any comments from any commissioners?
Yes, absolutely.
Sure.
Mark, can you please elaborate on the state's interest in this proposed plant, and specifically if weigh in on what you think would there be any negative fallout from the state if we elected not to sell this property?
That's a very fair question, and I'll answer in a couple of parts and give you a little bit of background. So, being a politician's kid, you know, I've watched the dance of the political theater my entire life. You know, all administrations have priorities, and all of us that work in and around the process, including you guys elected independently, certainly not under, you know, direct appointment from the governor, but the ties to the administration are always important. There are lots of things that the state cares about and lots of help that the state can provide that help make this facility successful. There have been definitely discussions that have gone on with the administration over this project, but I'll tell you a couple of, you know, things in terms of, you know, what's their interest and what potential fallout could be. We're in year 8 of the administration. We all know that. In the waning days of an administration, there are a lot more attention is given to what are the views for the future, and that future often includes what's the priority of the next administration, whoever that may be. We all know that if you were to vote today and tomorrow this property sold and developed, the first blade of grass will not be cut nor a spade put in the ground before the next governor is sworn in. But the impact of this sale is going to be felt by the next administration and the administration after that, and probably the administration after that. And so as it relates to this administration and how I would weight it, they have my phone number, they have me on speed dial, they know how to get in touch with me and you as well. They've sent their emissaries down to say to, you know, urge consideration for this project. It's the next administration that is the one that's going to have to handle all of the permitting and all of the things that are associated with this. And you know, were it me, I would be looking more toward the next administration and their viewpoint as opposed to this one. I mean, this is not disrespectful to Governor DeSantis or his emissaries that have come down there. It's just a simple political reality that we operate under. When I had discussions with the governor's office about this over the summertime, I invited them to bring their lawyers forward and to let's start to have this discussion and dialogue as quickly as possible so that these could be all put out there. They chose to go in a different direction, which is why we are where we are right now. And you know, if this was year 2 of an administration, I would tell you I would be seriously concerned about going in a different direction. But you know, 10 months, 11 months, there's going to be, you know, a new person going into that office. That doesn't mean that this administration and their appointed officials can't make your life miserable for the votes that you take on this. I will tell you, in working with the administration, I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, these are good folks that try to do best for the state of Florida, and I have found that they respect their colleagues in other elected offices, and they will respect the decision that you make. Again, assuming that it is laid out in the public and they, you know, the public and the administration hear why, I would not fear any retribution from the administration. It's just not the way I find those folks, particularly the secretaries at Transportation, Commerce. You know, it's just not the way they operate. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Anyone else?
Just a quick question, and Mark, maybe you can't answer this, maybe the folks at Chesapeake and Berkshire can, but my understanding is that an environmental impact statement will not be required. Can you confirm that?
I can't confirm that. I'd be surprised if that has been definitively answered by the agency. So I'd be shocked if it wasn't required, but I can't definitively answer that.
Because
Would that be required by the county or the state? Or
yeah, I don't know. I just my belief is, and I did a little quick research on this, was that the facility in Jacksonville was not required because it was not interstate.
Yeah,
It was intrastate or something along those lines. So
yeah, I can't answer the question as it relates to the environmental impact study. I will say that there will be a host of the permits that will be needed,
Sure.
and they will be, you know, for the most part, the state agencies that will be touching it, but there could also be federal implications.
I don't know about the environmental impact of the Jacksonville facility, but I do know that the Jacksonville facility is quite a great distance from any housing, any communities or anything.
One thing I would say is that'll be, pretty, I think, clearly laid out if this moves forward, right? The other thing that I would tell you is, I know that a letter came in, I think yesterday, from Brevard County to provide you their views and the importance of this discussion happening in the sunshine. One of the things that was referenced in there that I will address sort of as a matter of law is the current state of the comp plan in Brevard County as it relates to the use that's proposed for this site. You are not the comp plan police. It's not within your charter, it's not within your legal responsibilities, and frankly, I don't think it should be factored into your decision making. The Constitution's clearly separated what the county's role is in something like this and what the legislature has decided your role would be in this. And while that may be the county's view, at some point, the county will have their opportunity to deal with their comp plan. I wouldn't really let that distract you from the key questions that I think you should answer as you make your decision. The comp plan is the comp plan is a comp plan. They change all the time. And so that's for the county, not for you to worry about. I would not view that as an impediment if you chose to move forward with this. That's ultimately going to be their decision, not yours.
And also, I think it might be interesting, Harold, you've kind of told me how we got this property. It wasn't originally in the core area of the port.
No, it's not. And the charter says anything required after, I think it's 1988, that it's not in the port that we can sell. And this is required, that would apply to this property. So we are free to sell this property.
But we acquired it at some point from some kind of debt from...
Bankruptcy. I acquired it through a trustee of the bankruptcy that owned this property. And other property.
Captain Murray, let me ask, have you and your staff, not based on, but now that Mr. Dunbar has set out some steps at us, have you all given consideration to the strategic possible future use of that land as it relates to the need of the port in the future?
Mr. Chairman, I'll answer that question in two ways. The first one, since I arrived here almost 10 years ago, my whole focus has been on the most important strategic asset that a seaport has, and that's the interface between the land and the water. And that is a significant piece of waterfront property. It's vacant right now, and I've always had a stand even here in the port that if you don't have business in the port that is requiring access to that bulkhead, you probably should be outside somewhere else. And we've gone by that thought process over the last 10 years. And there's pieces of property that even as recently as 12 or 13 years ago we made decisions on that we're dealing with them today and wish that we hadn't made those decisions. So in that respect, I would always look at a piece of waterfront property for a seaport as strategic. Whether you're using it or not, it doesn't cost us anything. There's no tax bill that we're paying, but it's an asset in our portfolio. And that's my personal view, that you don't know what's going to happen 5 or 10 years from now. We're talking to multiple small space operators that aren't going to be using the size vessels that the SpaceX and Blue Origin teams are using. And they may need some access to some waterfront bulkhead. I can't say that's going to be something we are going to do, but I can say that I'd be really disappointed if we didn't have the option 5 or 10 years from now. So that's my view.
And some of the aerospace companies that are here now in Brevard County, do many of them have vessels that they dock out of the port, and could be any future need for further facilities for them to anchor their boats, their ships, while they're waiting for launches and returns?
Yes, we do. Obviously, we have SpaceX and Blue Origin who have marine assets, and SpaceX has 2 barge assets that they're recovering boosters on every other day basis. They're operating almost like a cargo company or a cruise line. They come in, they do their business, they go back out and catch another one. Blue's got less of a cadence right now. That will ramp up. They have 2 large assets in the port, and we move them around to different docks as needed to conduct other cargo operations. That's just the way it is. Eventually, their cadence will get up where their vessels will be acting in a similar manner as SpaceX. We also have other companies, and I'll name 2 that have been very active lately, and they're expanding. Stoke Space and Relativity. Both are looking at similar concepts of offshore recoveries. There's another company we just met with last week that is also actually looking at some property on the barge canal for their operation. And I think that with the growth and the limited options for marine assets and places to put them, that the barge canal is an option for us, particularly for marine assets that aren't recovering on a daily or weekly basis, that are going to be here for months between missions.
Okay, thank you.
Although, to say it, we don't need it today, but
We don't know about
hate
tomorrow.
to need it in 5 years and not have it.
Right. Anything else?
Well, yeah, no, just in to kind of follow up on the strategy part, you look at, unfortunately, this has a time element to it, like right now, as far as the companies are concerned. I mean, if this gets delayed, but from our standpoint, just to follow up, we don't know, maybe in 4 years, if we could put up a 5-year window and say, anybody that has an offer, come over the next 5 years, and but this isn't the case here. And that's why it makes it difficult to say, is this a strategic asset for us? Well, maybe it is, but maybe it isn't, so, you got that time element to it.
Exactly. And in other contexts, this concept of unsolicited public-private partnerships, unsolicited proposals where governmental entities such as yourself don't see it coming, and someone comes in and is like, hey, there's a park there. We think it should be a condo. We'd like to talk to you. And they come in with an unsolicited proposal. And usually there are time parameters associated with it and things like that. And there's a body of statutes when public-private partnerships are offered, unsolicited public-private partnerships are put forward. And one of the things is to say, well, we didn't really think about that, so we're going to go ahead and open it up to the public to say, okay, what do people think we could do here? Maybe that is a good test. What does the community want? What do other proposals want? I mean, there may be other LNG providers that want to come in and talk to you about it. There may be other ideas, and so that's the whole point is, you're being asked to dance when you didn't even know you were going to a dance. And they're like, well, there are only 2 hours left in the dance. It's like, well, I didn't even know I was going to a dance. So, that's one of the things that you don't, I would not feel obligated, because there is no statutory requirement that obligates you to do anything on anybody else's time frame except your own. So I think it's fair to take the time, listen to the public, talk amongst yourselves, and maybe even see if there are other people out there that are saying, oh wait, we didn't know that piece of property was in play, was considered possibly non-strategic. Let us make our pitch to you to see what they would want. And I would say for everybody that's involved in the project, time is not necessarily an enemy. Oftentimes time turns out to be a real asset to make sure that you get it right and that it delivers what people are looking for. So, yeah.
And part of that is whether there's a rest of judgment, or whether this property is strategic or maybe not strategic today. What is the highest and best use? What is the highest and best use for this property today, but maybe in the future?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Good. Thank you very much, Mark. Appreciate you coming down and talking to us today.
Yep, absolutely.
And now we have substantial number of public comment requests, so I'm going to go through each one. As I call your name, if you would come up to the podium. As I mentioned earlier, each speaker has 3 minutes to give your presentation. Everybody give them courtesy so you can hear. I'm a little hard of hearing, so if there's a lot of background noise, I may not be able to hear them. I don't know about the other commissioners, but anyway. The first one is Robert Wise, East Merritt Island Community Association.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'm representing AMICA, the East Merritt Island Community Association. And I first should tell you that our membership is unanimously opposed to the proposed site at 1350 Searay Drive. It's too close to Island Crossing. It's less than a quarter mile. If it works the way we've seen in other plants in Louisiana and Texas, those people have a certainty of not only bad smells, but actually toxic fumes pretty regularly. And there's also the outside chance of an explosion whose effect could reach a lot further than a quarter mile. We're all against it. In addition, I have a sense of the board that we would oppose a plant like that at any location if it runs and is regulated the way plants are now handled in South Louisiana and Texas. Just don't want it. And we think there are maybe 3 conditions that if they were all met would make us willing to accept such a plant. First one is flare gas recovery. There are flare gas recovery systems being used today. There are companies you can see online that are building it and selling these systems. I think they should be more widespread. But we would insist on a plant having a flare gas recovery system and using it. Which brings me to the second point. We see over and over in the environmental area that companies will violate air pollution standards, get cited, pay a fine, keep on rolling. A couple months later they violate again, pay the fine, and it goes on. We don't want to set up a situation like that here. So I think what we need, and I don't know how it would be implemented, but what we really need is zero tolerance enforcement of environmental regulations. And you hear that phrase a lot, but the concept is if you have to bypass your recovery system for flare gases, if you have to bypass your water treatment system, if you find you have to exceed air pollution standards because for whatever reason you can't get around it, then you shut down. No citation, no fine, you shut down then, and you stay shut down until you can operate safely and cleanly. Would be tough to implement, but that's really what we need, not only here, but in a lot of places.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry. Thank you for listening.
Next is Victoria Langan. And all of you, if I mispronounce your name, please excuse me, because I'm not really good at pronouncing names.
No problem. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And sometimes it's hard to read your writing. Anyway.
No problem. Thank you very much. I'm Victoria Price Langan. I work with Chesapeake Utilities Corporation, a partner with BHE and GT&S on the proposed project. I'm sure you're going to hear many comments today, but I want to clarify just a couple things for you. I do want to encourage the residents to visit the website. Thank you, Craig, for having that information up so you all can see it here, and email us your feedback so that we can take it into consideration as well. To clarify a few points, LNG is non-toxic, it's non-corrosive, it's non-explosive, and in its liquid state, and as a gas, it's lighter than air, so it disperses into the atmosphere. LNG is just natural gas that has been liquefied and cooled to negative 260 degrees Fahrenheit, which allows it to be a clean fuel for aerospace and marine industries. So essentially, the LNG facility proposed is effectively a large refrigeration cycle, cooling the gas, which includes peripheral equipment barriers to help store and load the produced LNG. Community engagement is very important and a transparent part of our process, and we've seen a great deal of conversations online, and we recognize the public wants a hearing. As part of that commitment, we have scheduled our own Listen and Learn open house, February 18th, to provide all of you the opportunity to learn and listen and speak to those that are proposing this project. We invite you all to attend, and we hope that you will ask questions. In addition, Commissioners, I have brought letters of support from customers who are asking for LNG in this region, And I'd like to give those all to you today, and I'll give that to the clerk here. Energy infrastructure that's being proposed will benefit the seaport and the spaceport in the future. It's a strategic asset that is needed for the region for both energy reliability and national security. This is why we've come together and proposed this project. We submitted the proposal for your consideration, and we look forward to continuing the conversation on that proposal to purchase the land from the Port Authority. This is just the first step in the development process. There's many more to come, including engineering, design, safety evaluations, permitting that goes through many rigorous checks of different bodies of different government entities. We're committed to keeping residents informed and our stakeholders involved, and we are offering a solution for a regional energy hub to meet the future demands that are being asked for cleaner, safer, and reliable fuel. We appreciate your consideration, and we thank you for the dialogue.
Thank you. Next is Diana Glenz.
Good morning. Appreciate the opportunity to speak. My name is Diana Glenz, and I'm a resident of Merritt Island. Actually, I bought a house on Merritt Island just a few short months ago because I like the natural beauty of that island, and this kind of goes against the natural beauty. I did want to point out that Mr. Dunbar talked about strategic steps. He was actually very thorough and everything. I think the first strategic step needs to be that we need to look at the proximity of the land to several hundred homes, to be exact. If you look at the blue star there on the map, 1,027 feet from the neighborhood there. My main focus, though, is on health concerns here because I have a health background, okay? So the following gases are emitted during the process: methane, carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, volatile organic compounds known as VOCs, and those are actually carcinogenic, such as benzene and formaldehyde, particulate matter, nitrogen oxides, sulfur dioxides, okay? So those are all emitted during the process. There has actually been several incidences where there have been explosions. There was one in Freeport, Texas back in 2022 that did affect people. And there was a 52-page report published in October 2025 that found that 7 out of 7 U.S. LNG export terminals violated the air pollution permits over the past 5 years, and 5 out of those 7 terminals violated their water protection permits. Okay, now that's already been talked about with fines and whatnot, so I just wanted to reiterate that. So an accident can actually happen under 2 conditions. One is that a small leak that after as little as 15 minutes with no wind can cause a massive explosion that resembles a bomb blast with no epicenter. Devastation is spread evenly across the range of the vapor cloud. The other accident scenario is a large leak on a windy day when cloud dispersion from wind cannot keep up with the volume of gas release. That too creates a cloud-sized explosion zone. The shape of the plume can be mapped from the destruction. In low wind conditions, vapor clouds that accumulate from small sustained leaks cause blast damage and fatalities 765 yards, nearly half a mile or more from that source. So what type of negative health impacts do we have besides explosions? There is a lot of documentation that direct air pollution from LNG was estimated to cause 60 premature deaths and $957 million in total healthcare costs. Thank you. All right. I do have some handouts I'd like to.
Next is Gianna Costello. Okay.
Good morning, chair members and members of the Port Canaveral Commission. My name is Gianna Costello. I've been a lifelong resident here. My fiance, who lives in Cape Canaveral, works right next to the proposed LNG site. We've built our lives here. We're planning our wedding right now. We're 17 days out, and I am here to talk to you about this because I'm scared and concerned. I'm not just worried, I'm horrified by this LNG facility, and every one of you should be too. As the last lady that just spoke said, VOCs, sulfur dioxide, and particulate matter will all be released, which can ravage the lungs. My partner already has breathing issues, and if he were working right next door to this proposed facility, I believe they would get much worse. I don't think he'd be able to continue working there due to his lung issues. The Environmental Health Project states bluntly, LNG emissions cause asthma, exacerbations, heart attacks, cancer clusters in surrounding neighborhoods, and the people that live there. They additionally report that communities near LNG terminals suffer 50% higher rates of respiratory disease from constant flaring and venting. I am not willing to remain living here if I'm having to breathe in toxic chemicals every day. The fact that LNG emissions cause cancer scares me silly as someone whose family members all have cancer. This plant should not be built in this area. It should be built far away from citizens and workplaces. As a local teacher, I'm scared for the health of my students, faculty, and other teachers. I'm scared of the consequences of constant exposure. I'm terrified of how an explosion would affect my life and my students' lives. An explosion, it's not if, it's when. LNG vapors ignite catastrophically. The Freeport LNG rupture shot flames 500 feet into the air and exploded windows miles away. An instant blast here would kill my fiance at work, with no warning and no escape. Oil Change International warns LNG terminals are permitted to expose nearby residents to lethal risks during failures daily. I'm scared my fiance would be blown up if this plant was built. I do not want to live with that fear every single day. It's not just me. Countless other families would be living with that fear, and residents of losing loved ones every day if this plant is built, because this plant is less than 1 mile away from schools, neighborhoods, homes, parks, and businesses. This must not be built here. Let's build it somewhere else where it's not so close to us. Additionally, our infrastructure cannot handle this plant. The Sea Ray Drive Bridge over Sykes Creek collapsed in Hurricane Irma in 2017, closed for nearly 8 years, stranding locals with one exit via North Banana River Drive. Rebuilding took $9.7 million, it took forever, and it exposed how fragile our infrastructure paths are. An LNG fireball would cause mass evacuation, which would be impossible, stranding all of us here. This poison, thank you.
Piper Kelly.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Piper Kelly. I am a native Floridian, a Merritt Island High School graduate, and a disabled Navy veteran. I grew up here, and like so many of us, I love my island. This place is home, and that's why I'm here today to oppose the proposed LNG facility. In 2024, the world crossed the 1.5 degree climate threshold for the first time, and LNG is not a climate solution. A Cornell study found that LNG's full climate footprint is 33% worse than coal due to methane leaks across its supply chain. Methane traps 80 times more heat than carbon dioxide, and expanding LNG locks us into decades of fossil fuel dependence at the moment we should be moving towards clean energy. This project is especially dangerous because it's being placed within 1,000 feet of a school and my neighborhood, where families live. LNG facilities are not built for storm surges, flooding, or major hurricanes. During Hurricane Laura, LNG plants lost power and released toxic gas and massive flares. Here, evacuation routes are limited, and LNG fires cannot be put out with water, they must burn. I want to directly address some of the claims made on the project's website. We are told LNG is safer, cleaner, and good for the community, but life cycle science shows LNG is worse for climate than coal. We're told safety is guaranteed, but regulations are decades old and don't reflect today's climate risks. We're told this helps the local economy, but there are no enforceable guarantees for residents, no rate reductions, no air quality protections, and no dedicated emergency response funding. We're told it reduces emissions by cutting trucking, but that does not outweigh the dangers placing hazardous fuel infrastructure in a residential, hurricane-prone area. And finally, we're told this is progress, but progress does not put families, schools, and evacuations at risk for corporate profit. This project threatens the Banana River wildlife tourism, restaurants, property values, and insurance rates. The profits leave our community, the risks stay here. We should not turn our island into a sacrificial zone. There are safer, cleaner alternatives like shore power and grid updates that reduce pollution without endangering residents. I urge you to reject this project, protect the people, environment, and future of the place we all love. Thank you for your time.
Joe McPherson.
My house is up there on that picture. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Joel McPherson. I am a resident of Merritt Island, living 1,500 feet from the proposed LNG plant site at the eastern end of the Barge Canal. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today and for your service to the community. I am deeply concerned about the port's proposed sale of this public land to Chesapeake Berkshire Hathaway. This location is extremely close to neighborhoods, schools, churches, a new hospital, and an active public park. I understand that Chesapeake will eventually need to conduct a hazard analysis as part of the permitting process for the LNG facility. My question is, why is a hazard analysis not a condition of the land sale? Selling the property before completing a safety assessment shifts risks onto the surrounding community without ensuring that this location is appropriate for such a high-risk industrial use. Hazard analysis is essential for determining public safety, emergency preparedness, and community welfare. I urge the Commission to clarify why public safety assessments are not incorporated into the sale process and to consider whether the land should remain under port ownership until all hazard studies and permitting requirements are complete and acceptable. Thank you again for your attention and letting me speak.
Thank you. Teresa Miles. And after that, it's Heidi Iflanif. So if Heidi wants to sort of be ready right away.
I live here.
You live in the Star?
I live in, no.
Oh, okay.
I live, but you saw a picture where I live, it's like right there. And then the school has 500 kids. So, and there's one road out and it's not good. I've already called the Department of Transportation to get it fixed as the water was splashing over our cars. So anyway, thank you so much for being here and listening. I'm Teresa Miles. Okay. I live in Stafford and I've been here since '74. Long story. So there's a lot of things I could say. I'm already thankful about what's been said. So I was looking over again our meeting last month. It was really interesting. I was going over some things. We know, hold on. We know that they do have a plant in Jacksonville. It's called Jax. And one thing that came up at the last meeting was they were talking about how we don't have to be transporting fuel outside of the state. And they were mentioning Alabama, Georgia, Pennsylvania. And I thought, but you didn't mention Jacksonville. It's coming. It's only 100 nautical miles. Clean, perfect, just going down the side of the state, away from residents, right to the port. That's one of the things I thought of. Another thing I had mentioned to Victoria, nice meeting you, and the other gentleman, I'm a Berkshire Hathaway stockholder. And I don't approve of this. so I just wanted to say that. There were other things. I really appreciate some of the things that you said and the fiduciary responsibility that we need to take. Yes, there's residents everywhere, and I've been very stressed, as you can see, about all of this. Yes, they used a lot of great verbiage. One of the things they said, which I found interesting, is that they looked for 2 years, and this area meets our minimum criteria. Well, minimum means baseline, not very compatible. So in other words, it doesn't truly meet their requirements, and I wonder what would truly meet their requirements, and I also wonder what areas did they look at, and why were they either rejected or it didn't work. So that was really interesting for us. I think we will have more of an escalated problem in our area, not less, because we have since had so much traffic, so much port traffic back and forth. It's so loud in my backyard, we can't go back there because of the traffic noise. And then you also have people coming in and out of the Space Center. Now they said we're going to do less trucking. That's part of the the speech, but it's not going to be less trucking. It's going to be more trucking because we don't have pipes bringing it in. So where would they travel? So you're going to have all these trucks right on the highway, right on either 528 or Courtney going to the destination. Do you remember 2011 when that woman was on her cell phone and she smashed into a tanker and it blew up the bridge? Okay, we have much more people here driving and on their phones, big time. And I can't say I don't do that either. So just saying, okay. Okay, so I really appreciate it. I appreciate everything you said. And the day after, do you remember that? Okay, the day after this meeting, there was an explosion in Hayward, California, blew up 2 houses.
Next is Heidi Eflin.
Hi, good morning. My name's Heidi Eflin. Most of what I had written to say has already been said. But one point, I'll just skip to an additional point. 528 is an evacuation route. And with the possibility of an explosion or with the traffic on and off of 528 from Banana River, that is already a congested area. The merge lane is very short and it's very difficult to get off and on the highway. As Teresa mentioned, there was an explosion with a tanker truck back in 2011 that took out the bridge at Courtney Parkway. With tanker trucks going on and off of 528, that increases the risk of an accident. So let's just say there is an accident, which the potential is incredibly high, and it shuts down the bridge, the 528 bridge. Now you have impeded an evacuation route, transportation to your cruise ships, which is what this is all about. I understand the importance of liquid natural gas, 100%. It's the way of the future. Cruise ships are using it. However, where we put these plants is critical. We all know the proximity. It's not only affecting our immediate half-mile radius, it's all of Merritt Island. 2 weeks ago, there was a controlled burn out on North Merritt Island. South Merritt Island had ash falling on their cars. So leaks, which are inevitable, are problematic. It's on the barge canal. So there have been, the organization Save Our Lagoon has spent nearly $10 million so far trying to clean up our waterway. $586 million is being projected in the next 10 years. If there are leaks into the water, which there will be, our critters, as the one gentleman said, will be affected. It will affect their habitat, their wildlife. The barge canal houses boaters, fishermen, animals, and all of that will be affected. It is inevitable. So as a 30-year resident, I don't oppose growth. I am for growth. I'm for change. This has absolutely no business being on Merritt Island, near residents, near schools, hospitals. The new Cape Canaveral Hospital is 5 miles away. If there is an evacuation and the beeline is shut down, it's congested everything. So they will also be affected by an LNG plant. I know this decision is hard for you, and I can only imagine what they're offering you monetarily, but you also have a moral obligation. Thank you for your time.
Michael Wilson. Michael Wilson. And next will be Alexandra McLaughlin.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Mike Wilson. I'm the chairman of the Space Coast Patriots. It's a group in Merritt Island whose goal is to educate voters about local, state, and federal issues. And what I would like to know is, in the event of a catastrophic explosion from the LNG plant, and despite what some of the other people are saying it can't happen, if you do a simple AI search, it can definitely happen. And I want to know how many people will be killed, how many people will be injured, what will be the disruption to the community, and what will be the cost. Thank you very much.
Alexander McLaughlin. And after that will be Chip Walker.
Hi, good morning, Commissioners. My name is Alexander McLaughlin. I'm a resident nearby. I'll keep this short and sweet because I have to get to work. But I have this whole write-up quoting different chapters, but I'm not a lawyer, I'm not an attorney, and I don't work for Berkshire Hathaway. So I'm not really in a position to talk about that. But I am an engineer, and I understand that there are a lot of risks with putting this so close to individuals like myself. There are going to be people that are going to leave, and that's your economy. Your local people that go to the sports bars nearby, the people that go and take cruises because it's right down the road. They're going to leave. They're not going to want to be here. So, thank you.
Chip Walker. And after Chip Walker will be Nancy Dix.
Morning, thank you for your time. 3 minutes, a lot of it's already been said, but let's cut straight to the facts. I'm not here to debate strategic assessment of an LNG plant or the council's right to sell the land. What I'm proposing, though, is that this position is so close to a residential area, it should be a no-go and a red line out the gate. I work out at Kennedy Space Center. I'm a reserve naval officer. I can tell you there is no place in the U.S. that an LNG plant is built this close to a residential area. You've heard various facts mentioned, so let's talk about one of those incidents with the explosion in 2014. The evacuation was 2.2 miles for that incident. I don't see that happening. We even got a school here. Secondly, if there is an explosion, evacuation route. That means Beeline would be taken out. The only capacity here to evacuate is down Banana River. That cannot handle that capacity evacuation route. We've heard about the hazards, both environmental and health. My wife has MS. My wife has asthma. I can tell you if this goes up, I'm out. I will not retire here. I imagine that will be contrary to the strategic desire of this community. We're already getting ready to spend an awful lot of money on an open bay aquarium. Why would you put an LNG plant, which has proven historical where the plants have violated those health and environmental rules? Why would you spend any money on an aquarium if you're going to put an LNG plant just right down the road from that? Dispersal models that are used for vapor gas to VOCs are around 2.2 miles for dispersion. Again, residential area, 2.2 miles. How is any of that health taken into consideration? If there's an explosion or even day-to-day state and operation of the plant, you're already exceeding the models that are even suggested put out by older models related to EPA. Cumulative effect of these chemicals, carcinogens, I'll be honest, I don't want that for me, I don't want that for my kids. I know all the residents don't want to hear. It's very simple. I'm not saying there isn't a need for LNG, I'm saying this location is a no-go. Thank you.
Nancy Dix. And after Nancy Dix is Douglas Dix.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for hearing me. I want to let you know that I'm a resident of Island Crossing, which is a quarter of a mile from where this proposed plant is to be. Also, earlier in my years, I worked for the Environmental Protection Agency and received a bronze medal for work on the Air Quality Division. This gives me knowledge of emissions and what we're facing in this circumstance. And from the information I've pulled up online, it says that benzene, which is a known carcinogen, and formaldehyde will be emitted into this community. We all know how the breezes go. Right now we're getting strong winds from the north. They're coming right into my neighborhood. And this just scares the heck out of me. And If you look at all the proposed, or not proposed, all the potential health risk for residents from these chemicals alone, there could be respiratory issues including asthma, cancer risk from the chemicals as well, neurological risks with migraines, dizziness, nausea, fatigue, sleep disruption, health problems, et cetera, et cetera. And it's not just the emissions. As they were speaking, they told you of all the dangers of explosions and what can potentially happen. And it's not if, it's when it happens. And please have it in your moral decisions to realize that this is too close to our community and our neighborhoods and schools and parks for this to happen to this place. I'm not opposed to a plant being built, but not here, not so close to the communities. It's just not right. So please keep this in your decision making and do the right decision and protect the citizens of Merritt Island and the surrounding communities. Thank you for your consideration.
Douglas Dix.
Good morning, Board of Commissioners. This is Doug Dix. I'm a resident on the proposed area. I'm really upset about the fact that you put it next to, or the proposal idea next to a community. If I remember the slogan correctly, Merritt Island, where dreams are launched. Well, guess what? I moved from Colorado and about 11 years ago and thought that this would be where I'd retire, which I am, and enjoying what we have to offer here in this community, in this county. But back to Colorado, I used to live a little bit south of an area called Rocky Flats. And Rocky Flats was a very dangerous area, which had all kinds of nuclear waste buried into the ground, but it was leaking out and then it got into the air. And looking at the strategic of this, if you had an explosion and you have all these gases in the air, all it takes is the wind to blow it and everybody's affected. And I hate to see my neighbors and myself suffer through this. And unfortunately, I have a feeling that the values of our homes are going to drop tremendously. And when that happens, you just put us out of business. And we're supporting you for your profits. So come on, work with us, and let's not build this in this area. I oppose it entirely. Thank you.
Next is Jonathan Schrift.
My name is Jonathan Schrift. I am a certified planner and a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners. My job is to plan communities and cities, and I've been doing this for almost 20 years. Our industry understands well the safety issues that a large industrial facility like a liquefied natural gas plant present to human, animal, and plant life. For these reasons, minimum safe distance recommendations are established. For such a use as a liquefied natural gas plant, 3 to 5 miles is the established best practice minimum safe distance from established residential communities. Where we're sitting here today is only 3 miles from the site. Today we've got 14-mile-an-hour winds from the west where this plant is proposed to be built. We'd all be breathing in the emissions from this plant during this meeting. Even if someone from the liquefied natural gas industry pushed back and said a mile is safe, maybe even a half mile, this proposed site is less than 500 feet property line to backyards across 528. Think about that, 500 feet. Even Route 1 on the mainland and even the ocean coastline of Cape Canaveral are both within 5 miles of this site. This range encompasses thousands of people, millions of plant and animal species. This population of people includes children, the elderly, and people with sensitive health conditions. If you build this plant here, you will see mass emigration of residents, leaving neighborhoods abandoned and communities blighted. People who are not able to leave will face major health issues and will overwhelm the new hospital that is currently being built on Merritt Island, also within that range. Despite being man-made, the Barge Canal has become an integral natural resource for Merritt Island, the mainland, and Cape Canaveral, not just for humans, but for dolphins, birds, fish, alligators, manatees, etc. Residents have been fighting for a decade to clean up the Barge Canal, Sykes Creek, and the Banana River Lagoon. Adding an LNG plant will absolutely destroy this ecosystem and those efforts. Beyond environmental impacts, many of my fellow residents have correctly pointed out that 528 is a major evacuation route and also the tourist gateway to our coastal communities from Orlando and beyond. This plant would only be 150 feet from the northernmost lane on 528. If something were to occur, it would cripple the residents' chance to safely evacuate, not to mention the eyesore and pollution it causes, and tourists may choose to choose another destination for their holidays. No one would visit the proposed aquarium to be placed on the west side of Cape Canaveral because the fumes from the smokestacks would be visible in the distance. It's clear that this site is a terrible choice for this proposed use. Why not consider placing the plant in the thousands of open acres west of I-95 or on the secluded Cape Canaveral Peninsula that's already been destroyed by the space industry for years? This would provide a much closer location to the end users of the natural gas and force them to take ownership when a disaster happens instead of putting it on us residents. There is no taking it back once you make this decision. So begging and demanding you consider a more fitting location for this heavy industrial area than our backyards.
Next is Ahmad Eklasi.
Good morning. My name is Ahmad Eklasi. I'm a retired KSC engineer and I live around the area. I came here to ask for a copy of the environmental study, and then I'm hearing that it may not be required. I mean, try to open a car wash and things you have to go through, right? So there needs to be a study done, and I was going to ask, can I have a copy of it? Can we see it, study of in case of explosion? So the fact that you don't have to have it, how can you make a smart decision? If you don't have a background, there are a lot of good things that was brought up here. And I think the environmental study will cover most of it. Thank you.
Next is Captain Alex Gorichki. Is the captain here? Captain Alex.
He was out there.
Oh, Captain Alex.
Port Commission, people in the audience, people watching on TV now and for days to come. It's almost brings a tear to my eye to see this much community engagement. And I could get up here and talk to you guys about failed project, exploration tower, failed project that hangs in the air of a cove district that has never happened, failed project of a cargo rail line, ill-conceived to go across a Banana River Lagoon 10 years ago. However, I'm not going to talk to you about any of those. I can even talk to you about the LNG plant. I'm going to talk to you about the echo chamber. The echo chamber that happens in this room when these meetings are at 10 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the middle of the week. I understand that the commissioners, this is not your only job. However, one of your main jobs as a commissioner is to hear from the voices in this room. I'm pleased to see that the company that wants to do this is willing to give us a chance to speak our minds to them. I would be even more pleased if this commission would allow residents after work hours to address them officially, not those people that are waiting to get something from the board. This echo chamber has been a problem for a long time. And I would love to see this commission at some point in time take the reins and give us a few, even just a few meetings at normal work hours where folks like half or more in this room are giving up their time and their money to do. I get to fish for a living. It seems great. What it does afford me is ability to stand in these meetings and address people like yourselves on behalf of these people that don't get a chance to. Listen to your constituents. If I have any time left, I'm going to cede it to a minute of silence for what we had and a hope that you guys all think about what we want to be, because when you're long gone, these effects are still going to be for our community. Have a good day.
Philip Stasek. Philip Stasek.
Good morning, Chairman Eller and the rest of the commissioners. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you today. This is a very important topic, and we're so glad that you're giving us all a chance to speak. And I'm so glad to see my neighbors, my friends here today, because we are all very concerned. This should be an easy decision. Please do not proceed with the LNG plant that's proposed along Merritt Island's barge canal. And we understand that our ride to the moon and to Mars will be fueled by Methalox vehicles. Starship, New Glenn, Vulcan will need massive amounts of fuel and oxidizer. Modern ocean-going vessels are also thirsty for LNG. But this is the wrong location for a plant to fuel them. It's really about location, location, and location. I've heard a lot of people talking about thousands of feet and that sort of thing. I measured it on Google Earth. It is 350 feet from the edge of this property to the nearest residential property. That is insane. This is an insane proposal, and it should immediately be rejected. Again, this should be an easy decision. The property is also immediately adjacent to Sea Ray Drive and the Barge Canal, both public thoroughfares. The logical location would be a remote site on the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, protected by military security and isolated from the surrounding community. This proposed location would create an attractive target for national security disasters. Any terrorist or foreign enemy could easily bring our national aerospace assets to their knees with a point-blank strike from the canal or Sea Ray Drive. LNG has a long storied history of explosions and leaks in the best of times, and remote siting will be prudent and necessary. We've already heard about places like Ohio, Texas, Washington State, where there have been explosions, but there are also much smaller incidents that happen on a fairly regular basis. Berkshire Hathaway and Chesapeake should be competitively bidding with others to access the federal government space at a remote location buffered by a large security zone. The proposed location is the wrong location, location, location. Please vote no on this proposal. Thank you very much. Thank you for listening.
Sarah Hodge. Sarah might be out in the lobby. I haven't. After Sarah is Lisa Downs. So if Lisa's not in the room, maybe she can be paged outside. Okay.
My husband and I and my family and all my friends are totally opposed to this. And I support every comment that has been opposed to this. And I think they're awesome speakers, much better than me. So I had made a long little thing, but I'm not going to because they cover several of them. But I will hand it out so you can see all those comments. But okay, number one, vibrations will set off an explosion in these plants. Well, we're gonna have the Starship here, and it is gonna be 10 times more vibration than anything we've ever had in rockets here in Space Center, okay? There was a plant, and I don't remember where, that a railroad vibration blew it up. That's so much less than what we're going to have here. And that is ridiculous that we're even looking at this. And it is unconscionable and beyond belief if you vote for it. And you will have a whole community that is opposed. But anyway, I'm sorry, because I like all of you. It has nothing to do with you. But this is unconscionable. The hurricanes, they affect gas tanks. They can explode. You're going to take out your whole port, and those cruise ships may decide it's not worth being next to an LNG dangerous thing. They might decide, well, we can go somewhere else. You're going to affect the whole economy here, because those houses are going to go down to nothing. No one's going to want to live there. This is not something that just, oh, well, if it happens, it happens. It's not true. I'm sorry, I'm emotional about it, but, I've never even heard of anything like this being considered. And I am a native. I live on a homestead property that the barge canal was dug through in our cemetery on the other side now, our family's cemetery. And nothing like this has ever been considered in this state, But anyway, I just, and I'm sorry I'm emotional because I like all of you. I'm just upset about this. You've covered, and it's time, all right, thank you.
Thanks. Lisa Downs.
To Melanie, actually, she's the, she'll hit it out too.
Lisa Downs. I live right there, as close as you can get. Thank you for listening to us. My name is Lisa Downs. I live on Potomac Drive, and if you kind of look at that map, I'm right there. Mark Dunbar talked about fiduciary responsibility. And in that, in thinking about the profits that could be made for the port, and that's clear, that's certainly a consideration. And that's where that fiduciary responsibility comes in. However, the fact that this is right on 528, forget the increased traffic and what the construction is going to do to the incoming port traffic. But if there were a leak or an evacuation, for the sake of the port, it would shut your port down. The neighborhoods, everyone has been very impassioned. I was going to come up here and start with that, but it really got me thinking about your fiduciary responsibility to your own port. This could easily cut off access to your port should there be a leak or an explosion. And I can't imagine the financial repercussion to you if that were to occur. Safety evaluation after the fact, after the sale of the land, environmental impact after the sale of the land, that seems nonsensical to me, that you would need to be educated before making a decision, not after. Thank you so much for your time. I am opposed.
Next is Bailey Barack. Bailey. After that is LaRue Osborne.
Good morning, Commission. My name is Bailey Burkike. I'm a Florida native. I live off of Sykes Creek with my wife and 2 kids. 9 a.m. on a Wednesday. That's tough. If you want to get comments from the public and the people that live here, we all have to work for a living. We shouldn't have to be on PTO or unpaid hours to come here and tell you how we feel about this. It's pretty packed out there, so I was unable to see the TV, but I heard one of you guys speaking earlier about why we want to live here. The critters, the sounds, the smells. Well, my response to that, that's why I want to live here too. I love it over here, so I don't see why we would seek to take those things away. The critters, first thing you're going to do is when you pump the water full of pollutants, we're not going to have all the manatees and dolphins and things that we want to see in our waterways. There's a spot off Sykes Creek where me and my son love to go. I take him out there, and it's where you learn to say the word water, learn to say the word boat. We look at all the stuff out there, and you can smell it. You can hear the sounds of all the critters. All that is under attack. The smell of the ocean that you guys cited earlier, that would be replaced with the smell of sulfur. The sounds of all the critters out there, that would be replaced with what was described at a Maryland facility as the sound of a slow-moving train, even with a 60-foot sound wall built around it. In my time sitting out there, I have not heard a single resident support this. Please take that into account. Thank you.
LaRue Osborne. And after that is Jeffrey Hybel.
Hi, I'm Lynn Knight, and I stand for Diana Shores. 540 families in Diana Shores, okay? And I came here 47 years ago, and I also represent LaRue Osborne, who is my significant other of 27 years. He lives off of Larchmont, and I live off of Sykes Creek Drive. I just want to tell you something. I'm very active in this community. I'm 87 years old, and I moved here with my husband 47 years ago. He was the head man at the Range Operation Control Center that tracked the shuttle. And God bless his soul, he died at 49. And he was the head man that took care of the Range Operation Control Center. When I came here, you know, I went to all these commission meetings fighting the little fishies and fighting the Sykes Creek sewage. I spent 7 years of my life fighting the Sykes Creek sewage. And I just want to tell you something. Before I came here, we were so blessed. Our commissioners, believe it or not, gave 25-year grants to people like Sea Ray Boats, okay? My son was a severe allergic child at 8 years old. They had watched to make sure he didn't get more than 2 tablespoons of green beans or tomatoes. We walked out the door, and I want to tell you, Sea Ray Boats almost killed us. I would get migraine headaches from walking out the back door of my property on Sykes Creek Drive. I watched the shuttle go down. I stood there and watched that stuff. We've had this solution that my significant others, the solution about 2 weeks ago or whenever it was, not the river, but in our swimming pool, just covered with all this silt and all this crap that came in from the air. We are a beautiful little community. And I want to tell you, as recent as 2 months ago, I went to Northern Brevard, where we were dealing with the sewage treatment plant. Now, this may sound silly. It took 7 years for the Sykes Creek group. I was the one that raised the money. I was the head person that raised the money. I was called an irate idiot by the Today newspaper. And I'm damn glad to be an irate idiot because we sued the county and we won. And by golly, we'll do it again. These things, they keep bringing in all this crap. We love the new additions. But now we're getting the new space programs and we're getting the new cruise ships. What are we going to do with all of these people? We don't have the room. Thank you.
Next is Jeffrey Hybel. Jeffrey Hybel. Oh, that's not Jeffrey. Well, maybe Jeffrey will show up. Lynn Knight. Jeffrey, Lynn Knight.
It's already been, wasn't it?
I'm going to take a 5-minute recess.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, well, since neither one of them have showed, I appreciate everybody being here this morning. We're going to take a 5-minute recess, and then the meeting will continue on. I do, oh yeah. Next item on the agenda is consideration of approving the updated commission meetings for the balance of 2026.
Sit on that?
I think.
I'm good with that, so moved.
Second.
Did you get it?
Yeah, I've got somewhere, yep.
Okay. It's been moved and second to approve the commission meeting schedule for the balance of 2026. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Okay, next, the long-awaited CEO report. Captain Murray.
Good morning. We can all take a breath. Okay, starting out with our normal report. Numbers through December, we had a very, very strong first quarter of our 2026 fiscal year. We had 284 cruise ship calls, 2.3 million multi-day passengers. We also, since our last meeting, were named Best Cruise Home Port by Cruise Hive for the 6th consecutive year. That follows Cruise Critic's Best North American Port that I announced at our last meeting. We had a very special guest here for the last few weeks. It was the Disney Adventure. The Disney Adventure is the largest vessel in the Disney fleet. It was built in Germany. It came to Port Canaveral so the Disney could do some of their normal things that they do, and they have a new ship deploying and bring some of their employees out and cast members and all familiarized with the ship. It's on its way to Singapore, and it will be sailing from Singapore later in the year. She leaves from here, eventually goes through the Panama Canal up to the west coast U.S., eventually to Japan, and then ultimately down to Singapore. So it was a great opportunity for some people to get on there and see the ship. She left yesterday and good sailing distance to Singapore, halfway around the world. MSC Cruises officially opened sales for the MSC World Atlantic. As you remember in a prior meeting, I reported that that vessel will be coming here. She's due to arrive in November of 2027. That will be the newest ship in the MSC fleet when we receive her. Cargo update, strong cargo. We had 193 ship calls, including lay berth, 1.6 million tons. In space component recoveries, we did 21 boosters, 48 fairings. We had a lot of space-related equipment moving on and off, too. We had BBC Talon offloaded 2 liquid nitrogen tanks. The BBC Livorno offloaded European service module for Artemis 4 moon mission. And we had vehicles exported on the MV Crimson Clover for the Jamaican humanitarian relief. Social media, we're going to talk a little bit differently now that Steve's not here and he's no longer available to explain what the numbers mean. So we're going to call it engagement now. So strong engagement across all major platforms. And just to identify what engagements are, it's likes, comments, shares, downloads, clicks. It's not just opening something and looking at it. It's opening, looking at it, and then doing something. So that counts as an engagement. So you can see our numbers on the right-hand side. Depending on what the platform is, we have quite a bit. Facebook and Instagram are our fastest growing engagement platforms. And many of these engagements are with cruise guests. They're waiting in line. They're finding out information about the port, whatever, before they get on a ship. So also we get a lot from crew members that are scattered around the world that are looking for the latest updates at Port Canaveral. So it's a worldwide engagement, which hopefully this is a better metric that we can all track a little bit closely now. It indicates effective messaging, strong audience connection, and sustained interest in the port. On government relations, we've been busy here too. We attended the MCO GOA Strategic Master Plan Stakeholder Engagement event on December 18th. They've got a master plan process underway at the Orlando Airport, and we are part of that planning discussion. We also had bi-monthly strategic planning discussion with SLD 45 on January 9th. We do keep up with SLD 45 and NASA, and we do have periodic engagements, so this was our normal update. We also had the Florida legislation kickoff session, January 13th and 14th. We had meetings with Brevard delegation members, attended the Associated Industries of Florida Legislator Welcome Back reception, and tracking multiple bills relevant to port operations. Additionally, we hosted FDOT District 5 Secretary John Tyler January 16th for a cargo operations tour and leadership briefing. We also last week had a Washington, D.C. fly-in with January 21 to 22 with member meetings on proposed federal drone legislation, which will recognize, or the goal is to recognize seaports as critical infrastructure at the national level, all seaports in the United States. We also hosted Senator Moody's Regional Director Alex Quiones for tour and marketing meeting with Wild Ocean Seafood on January 22nd. And last Friday attended the Artemis II EOC Launch Partner Coordination meeting on January 23rd. Obviously, when Artemis does launch, the port is very much impacted. We have a lot of people go to Jetty Park. Jetty Park will close, and there'll be overflow, people wanting to stage all over the port. So we have to address these matters up front, and that was our purpose in intending. On public safety update, we have the Coast Guard Facility Security Plan audit with no findings. That's conducted annually. We also participated in Society for Gases and Marine Fuel Working Group on accidental release of all future fuels, January 11th to 15th. We welcomed BCSO Commander Brian Neal for a meet and greet on January 21st. He has joined as the new commander for our area. Canaveral Fire Rescue's new aerial ladder truck, air, light support truck, and 2 F-350 emergency response vehicles have been delivered, and they are outside for you to see after the commission meeting. They're parked right out in our front entryway. We're also developing port operation plan for Artemis II launch. Details to be released through port communications as we get closer to launch date. Recreation and events, Jetty Park campground occupancy 75%. Average vehicle count 304, total vehicle count 9,000. Launches open for 5 of 8 launches. Keep in mind that when we do close at night, so if they're 2 in the morning launches, we're not open for those. Supported events, we've had an employee appreciation food truck event at the holidays at December 10th. And then we had a Jetty Park camper holiday event on December 20th. On the environmental side, the 27th Space Coast Birding and Wildlife Festival held at Radisson and Cape Canaveral last week. More than 780 registered attendees, and the port-sponsored Young Birders event held at Jetty Park on January 24th. Cape Brevard Beautiful Annual Battle of the Causeways is coming up on February 21st. That's the port sponsoring cleanup at Kelly Park and Merritt Island. And that is my brief report today. Any questions?
None.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Jeff Long, Financial.
Good morning, Commissioners. Mr. Bryceline, Captain Murray. I am pleased to present to you a brief update on our Q1 financial results for fiscal year 26, of course covering October, November, and December. And I'm happy to say we're off to a very solid start from a financial standpoint with results that align closely with and in some cases exceed the assumptions that we built into our budget for the fiscal year. So before I get into the slides and cover some of the detail, let me just hit some of the highlights. Our first quarter operating revenue came in at $61.3 million, which was $4 million above budget for the first quarter, or about a 7% favorable variance. Perhaps what is even more telling is when we compare first quarter of 26 to first quarter of fiscal year 25, our operating revenue actually grew $10 million or 19.5% in just the last 12 months. So as you may recall from our fiscal year 26 budget, 84% of our operating revenue comes from cruise activity. So for the first quarter, because of cruise passenger movements coming in above budget and other cruise activity revenue line items performing above budget, about $3.6 million of our $4 million favorable variance relates to cruise, so about 90% of that favorable variance. Cargo also performed very well for the first quarter, with cargo revenue and cargo tonnage both coming in above budget. So the early results show the strength that our cargo partners have here at Port Canaveral. Importantly, also I wanted to note that the early results show that we've got multiple revenue streams that are performing very well above budget, in addition to cruise activity. From an operating expense standpoint, for the 3 months ending December, our operating expenses came in at $37.6 million, which is a favorable variance. One key takeaway for the first quarter results is cost control that definitely is shining through with our first quarter operating expense results. And we beat budget. We came in below budget without having to delay any key initiatives or impact any service levels across the port. So for the 3 months, operating expenses, as I mentioned before, $37.6 million, $3 million favorable to budget. So the early results show that we have a culture of cost discipline throughout the port and throughout the staff. So the result of revenues and operating expenses for the quarter means that we actually had operating income of $23.7 million, which was $7 million ahead of budget and nearly $5 million favorable to where we were a year ago for first quarter of fiscal year 25. Now, importantly, I want to spend just a quick moment talking about operating margin. So operating margin is that operating income divided by operating revenue. And it's critically important, especially as our revenues increase, that we manage our operating margins. So I'm pleased to say that for the first quarter, our operating margin came in at 38.6%, very, very strong. In fact, over the last several years, our operating margin has been enhanced. In fact, if you go back to fiscal year 19, our operating margin was 19.3%. So since that time, we have actually doubled our operating margin up to 38.6%. So that means for every dollar of revenue that comes in, nearly 39 cents on that dollar is able to be reinvested back into the port and back into the community, back into Brevard County and to Central Florida. So again, it's very important to maintain our strong margins, and with the enhanced margins that we have been able to achieve over the last several years, it strengthens the port's capabilities to fund the $258 million in infrastructure investment that we have in fiscal year 26 alone, not to mention nearly $1 billion of investments, capital investments that we have planned over the next several years. And also it enables us to service our $300 million of long-term debt. All right, so let me get into the slides, and I won't spend a whole lot of time on the slides, especially the month of December ones, but I will say that operating revenues for the month of December were $23.6 million, so about $500,000 above budget. Operating expenses for the month came in at $12.2 million. So that was favorable to budget by about $700,000. Operating income for the month of December, $11.4 million, which is $1.3 million above budget, and also an increase over where we were from December of a year ago. So for the 3 months ending December, so our first quarter results, operating revenues, as I've mentioned before, $61.3 million, 7% above budget, $4 million. Like I mentioned, about 3.6 of that is cruise activity, and then other line items represent the balance of that favorable variance. 19% increase over first quarter, it's actually 19.5 over first quarter of 25 operating revenue. It's very impressive to have that increase over just 12 months. Operating expenses came in at $37.6 million, $3 million favorable to budget, 17% increase year over year. Of course, if you recall from our fiscal year 26 operating expense budget, we have made strategic decisions to invest in people, facilities, and operational capabilities. And you see that coming through, and our returns are coming in strong so far. Operating income for the quarter, 23.7, as I mentioned, $7 million above budget, and 24% increase over the first quarter. Crews for the month of December, 112 calls. That's up year over year for compared to December of 24. 910 passengers, up 9% over last December. Cargo, 60 cargo calls. We moved 508,000 total tons in the month of December. Looking at the statistics for the 3 months, we had 285 cruise calls, as Captain Murray has already mentioned, 16% increase year over year. Compared to the previous year quarter, we moved 2.3 million passengers. That's up about 300,000 from first quarter of 25. 193 cargo calls. We moved 1.6 million tons, which was a 6% increase year over year. From a cruise call perspective, cruise line company perspective, you can see that Royal Caribbean and Carnival are two cruise lines that had the most calls during the first quarter, followed by Disney with 57, MSC 36, NCL 21, Celebrity and Princess with 9 and 5 respectively. So this next chart shows a blue line, which is a monthly actual passenger movement that we had in fiscal year 25. The green line represents the first 3 months of the year. So you can see in October, November, and December, each of those months we had more cruise passenger movements, increased activity there. Now the next slide is going to also drop in a dotted line, which represents our fiscal year 26 budget for cruise passenger movements. And you can see that for the first quarter, the green line is just right above that dotted line. So in other words, we exceeded our budgeted cruise passenger movements for the first quarter. Now we are still on track, in fact, probably a little ahead of track. Our budget calls for 9 million cruise passenger movements in this fiscal year, up from 8.6 million in 25, up from 7.6 in 24. We do think we are on track to meet that 9 million, perhaps exceed it. So we're excited about that. From a cargo perspective, for the quarter, for the 3 months, total cargo revenue, $6.2 million. As I mentioned before, came in above budget. That was broken out between fees of $4.6 million, representing dockage, wharfage, other port fees, and then cargo rent from our cargo partners accounted for $1.6 million for the quarter. We had 193 cargo calls. Moved 1.6 million tons. The largest commodity, of course, is fuel, followed by forest products, granite, slag, limestone, and salt. Other operating revenues. Our total revenue was $3.1 million for the quarter. We're on budget. In fact, leases are slightly above budget, as is recreation, JD Park, camping, etc. And miscellaneous is right on budget. So taking a quick detailed look at our December revenue, you can see the totals, $23.6 million for December, which was about $500,000 ahead of our budget just for the month of December. So we were about 2% ahead of budget, driven mainly by our cruise activity. Looking at the operating expenses for the month of December, our expenses came in at $12.2 million, which was about $700,000 below the $13 million that we had budgeted for the month of December. Now looking at the 3-month totals for operating revenue, you can see our total operating revenue, as I've mentioned before, $61.3 million. It was $4 million ahead of budget for the quarter, so off to a very solid start from a revenue perspective. And it's not just cruise activity, which makes the majority, but other revenue lines performed well. So we, again, had a very, very strong first quarter from a revenue perspective. The next slide shows operating expenses for the quarter. And as I've mentioned before, we're about $3 million favorable variance. And again, a lot of that is timing, but it also is a great indication that we take serious our cost containment, and we have developed a culture of cost discipline here at the port among the different department heads and staff. Taking a quick look at our quarter actual versus budget. Again, operating income, $23.7 million. Our operating margin is 38.6%, a very healthy operating margin, which is significantly above what our budget was for the quarter because we're $7 million favorable in terms of our operating income over budget. The next slide is going to compare our first quarter of 26 to first quarter of 25, and you can see that our operating income increased from 19 million a year ago for first quarter up to 23.7. So more importantly, if you look at the operating margin, again, 38.6%. That's an increase of 1.4% over last year. We've been increasing our margins over the last several years, which is an indicator that the investments that we've made here at the port are paying off big time. After we consider non-operating revenues and non-operating expenses, our addition to net position for debt servicing and also investment back into the port was $23.3 million, very healthy $23.3 million for the quarter. And as I've mentioned before, this is important as we fund our capital projects for not only this fiscal year, but for the years to come. And then finally, this is a quarter one comparison. On the far left is fiscal year 19, and then in the middle is fiscal year 25, and then to the right, fiscal year 26. So you can see on the left, fiscal year 19, where we were after one quarter. So December ending fiscal year 19, for those 3 months, we had operating revenues of $25.5 million and operating income of $4.9 million. So 19.3% operating income percentage. And you can just see how we have grown here at the port from a revenue and also operating income perspective up to $61.3 million. So more than doubling our revenue from a few years ago, but more significantly, our operating income has improved because of that operating margin. So we had $4.9 million a few years ago for the first quarter. Now we're up to $23.7 million. And in fact, our operating income for fiscal year 26 is almost as much as our operating revenues were just a few years ago in fiscal year 19. So in summary, we're off to a very solid start in fiscal year 26. We are carrying the momentum that we had throughout fiscal year 25, and as we ended fiscal year 25, our increased operating revenues combined with our management of our costs and the culture that we have here at the port, a disciplined cost structure and culture, basically results in very strong margins that we will continue to monitor. And because of those things, it puts the port in a strengthening position to not only invest more into the port, but to service the debt that we have. So we have set ourselves up not only for short-term success, but by increasing revenues and managing our costs, enhancing our profit margin also sets us up to have sustained growth in the years to come. So any questions?
Any questions for Jeff? Good report, Jeff.
All right, and one last thing. RSM, they are getting close to completing their audit. They will hopefully be presenting to you at our next commission meeting in February the results of the fiscal year 25 audit.
Good. Get this. Thank you, Jeff.
Very good. Kevin, do you want to
make a motion to?
My motions, yes. I'd like to move for approval of the financial memo for November and December of 2025, the list of disposals, legal bills, and commissioner minor expenses for the same time period, as well as the statistical report, aging report, and list of bills for the same time period.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Yeah, it's approved.
Okay, thank you.
Next. Capital project update, Bill Crow.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. I only have a couple of updates for you today. I want to start with item 1C on your consent agenda. This pertains to cruise terminal number 3. Hard to believe that it's a 5-year-old terminal now. The existing exit out of Customs and Border Protection has the weather protection that you see here. It's a little bit of an eyebrow that we call it canopy. And as we've experienced, it causes backup during inclement weather for passengers exiting those double doors out of CBP. So what we are proposing to do is to augment this area with a series of 3 canopies. You see the ROM price, the GMP price from Ivy's construction there, 1.7 million. That includes design of the following 3 canopies. As you see in the photo, we have a 285 linear foot canopy in the right of the photo that will connect that CBP exit, a restroom that is in the background beyond that exit, and it will also connect it to the front entrance of cruise terminal number 3. There is an over-the-road canopy with 16.5-foot clearance in the background, and then the third component is a 9-foot clearance pedestrian canopy that connects it to the garage. So a great addition to cruise terminal number 3 that will build efficiencies into the exit out of CBP and protect our guests during inclement weather. Item 1E is the last item that I have on the consent agenda, and it is to relocate certain fiber optic network components on the north side of the port. This will pave the way for FDOT and their contractor to install a driveway that connects North Cargo Berth 8 directly to State Road 401. So as we have had good discussions with DOT regarding this project, we've discovered that our fiber optic network has a couple of different conflicts. This will relocate that network from the south side of 401 to the north side of 401, again, making the way for FDOT to install the driveway access. This is a 2-part item that includes this cost to Danella Construction under continuing contract. There's also a utility work agreement through which FDOT would reimburse us this cost as well. So ultimately a no-cost item to the port. I don't have a slide on it, but today we are having our design kickoff meeting, our programming kickoff meeting for cruise terminal number 4. So at 1 o'clock, Architectonica, the South Florida architect, is driving up here with their subconsultants. We'll be meeting here in the Maritime Center with internal stakeholder departments as well to move forward on that cruise terminal 4 Uplands design. Are there any questions about other ongoing projects that you would like to ask at this time? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. Good report.
Is the air turned extra down this
It must
during
be
this
because
meeting, Bill?
I want to make sure that you didn't get warm.
When we had 170 people there.
Yeah, no, it makes sense, but it's just, it's cold.
Well, I always heard that you planned for a fast meeting by making it hot.
Next time.
Okay. Melanie, were there any public comments on the consent agenda? Okay. On the consent agenda, Commissioner Micah, do you have any items that you want to pull?
I don't, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Rich?
Nothing, Mr. Chairman.
Kevin?
Yes, I'd like to pull 3A, please.
And Carol?
As long as Corey's here.
Nothing, Mr.
All
Chairman.
right, there you are.
Okay, then the chair would entertain a motion to approve consent items 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, 1E, 2B, and 3A.
No, I pulled 3A, Jerry.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you said 2A.
My bad.
My hearing is, all those talk.
Okay. No worries.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Item 3A.
I just wanted to learn a little bit about it, Corey, so thank you.
Absolutely. Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Corey Dibble. I'm the Director of Safety and Security here for the Port Authority. So Commissioner Markey, I just put together some notes which will summarize the document or the resolution that I'm looking for you guys to adopt. So I'm here today to request approval of the resolution adopting the 2025 Brevard County Hazard Mitigation Plan, also known as the Local Mitigation Strategy. Federal law and FEMA regulations require this plan to be updated and readopted every 5 years for local jurisdictions to remain eligible for FEMA funding, including the Hazard Mitigation Program, Flood Mitigation Assistance, and other non-emergency disaster assistance programs. Port Canaveral previously adopted this plan in 2020, and that adoption directly enabled us to apply for FEMA mitigation funding, including a 400 kilowatt generator project. While that project was initially approved, we declined due to COVID-19 constraints. Following Hurricane Ian, we have reapplied for that same project and are now in the final stage of FEMA review. Adopting the 2025 plan today ensures Port Canaveral remains compliant and positioned to pursue future mitigation funding for resiliency funding and both proactively and following disasters. This is a countywide effort, and all participating jurisdictions include all of 16 Brevard County municipalities, Brevard Public Schools, Health First and Parish Medical Hospitals, the St. Johns River Water Management District, and Waste Management. Approval of this resolution keeps Port Canaveral eligible, competitive, and aligned with our partners. And I respectfully request your approval for this document, for this resolution.
Thank you, Corey.
Yes, thank you.
Corey, when we have a hurricane here, are you physically at the Emergency Operations Center?
So our staff we have a liaison, and he's our newly hired. We got him about a year ago, so that'll be DeMarcus Gamble. But we activate virtually, so I coordinate with John Scott, the EOC manager, through Web EOC, but we do have a liaison inside the EOC. We just don't send a lot of staff because we have to focus on our here, right. So Peter, myself, and the rest of the staff are here for Unified Command.
That's great. I think it's another example of you guys staying ahead of
the curve,
problems.
Yeah.
Yep.
Opens up the mechanism for funding.
Yep, thank you.
Motion to approve consent item 3A.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Been moved in second. Discussion. Any favor? Any opposed? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next item is commissioner discussion and reports. The CEO evaluation. Harold, is that what you do?
Yes.
There's no name behind that, so
Yes, I've seen it. It's great. And if you approve it, which I suggest you should, John Murray will receive his contractual boost in salary.
Okay. For those that maybe don't know, each commissioner does an evaluation of the CEO every year. And consistently every year, Captain Murray has received a high evaluation. Very, very excellent in everything that he does. We're really fortunate, I think, to have someone of Captain Murray's caliber leading ours, and it's evident in how the growth and the continued growth and the continued success of the port has been and is and will be in the future. Anyone want to make any other comments?
Do we have to take any action, or is this just?
Yes, you have to approve it.
Approve that report.
And then the raise will be automatic.
That was sent to us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just for clarification, the contract's in place, and this is just lockstep with.
That's right.
Carry on. Yeah.
A satisfactory evaluation entitles Captain Murray to his contractual increase in base salary.
Okay. So I agree with Jerry, well stated, and I move for approval of
evaluation.
The approval, acceptance of the evaluation.
Yes.
Second.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, evaluation is accepted. Any commissioner comments? Or is that the extent of it?
I have no comments.
Chris?
Not about that, I think, yeah.
Commissioner comments in general.
For just general comments?
Yes.
I have nothing to report. However, it was brought to my attention that today is the 40th anniversary of the tragic Space Shuttle Challenger disaster. So,
wow.
40 years, seems like it's yesterday. But anyway, let's, knock on wood that we don't have anything that, any other, any issues going forward like that, especially with all the rockets that are going up and then Artemis too.
Trying to get
in a
them
couple
on
weeks.
now with the weather that's.
Yeah, with the weather. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that and it was brought to my attention. Thank you. That's it.
Kevin?
I have
Any
none.
comments?
I have none.
Carol?
I have nothing, thank you.
Okay. Then I'll adjourn the meeting. Our next meeting is Wednesday, February 25th, 2026.